各位观众朋友们，大家好，欢迎收看 JxJ 论坛，由我 Jim 马健与我们的好朋友 Jim Noteware 为我们一起讨论这个礼拜的时事。Jim, how are you?
Well, I'm doing fine. I think the world gets ever more complicated and dangerous with every passing week. We say some of that every week. The world is full of surprises, and the pace of life is picking up almost everywhere.
I don't think it's surprising. No, Jim, it's no longer surprising to me. I was in New York this week again for work, and I have to deal with when I see the news of what happened in Uvalde. You know, we actually go there often. Garner State Park is down the road. I'm probably one of the few people that's been to that town. We drive to it, we've stayed there before. I have children in school. I have a 12-year-old, 9-year-old, and a 5-year-old. There's no chance. There is no luck. We knew this would happen. There's no surprise. This will keep happening. We account for the majority of mass shootings and school shooting. A month ago, we talked about Buffalo. We agreed that the times has changed. Our Bill of Rights that at that time as colonies against British rule, against tyranny, no longer applies. To keep blaming this on mental health. Mental health is an issue, but dragging that into mass shootings is denying accountability and responsibility to allow the lobby, the NRA lobby, to continue this narrative. I'm very disappointed in the leadership in our state, in our great state of Texas. Abbott, Ted Cruz, there needs to be accountability because these are children dying. I'm very angry, Jim. I'm angry. I'm disappointed. This is not something you just post on social media and complain about it and it goes away. This will not go away. We live in fear every day. When we're at church, at our place of worship, it could happen. Grocery stores, schools. Okay? This narrative of arming a good Samaritan. Those are not true. Facts do not lie. Arming citizens, arming civilians does not change this. It will not work. Having more stringent laws, there is no stringent laws. I mean, this state we have open carry. It's getting worse and worse. Jim, thank you for allowing me to vent. I've been holding this for 4 days. I just want to hug my kids. I want to keep my kids away. I don't want them to go to these schools. I want them to, we might consider leaving because this is too much. This is too much. What do we do? Jim, what can we do?
Well, I am not at all sympathetic to having more stringent gun laws for a variety.
Yes, you've said that many times.
And if I thought two huge reasons, Jimmy, and there may be more, but number one, if I thought they would do some good, I might be willing to consider and listen. And I want to come back to that point in a moment. And two is, I simply don't trust the government. I simply don't trust the government. And if you want evidence on everything we've been talking about for the last couple of years, I think the government has failed us on everything from the pandemic to border control to everything. And this is a very, very serious set of issues. It's not just a simple issue. It's a set of issues. And so, I mean, my heart goes out to the families, everything. And we go back 10 years to Sandy Hook in Connecticut, everything else. Having said all of that, what I would be willing to do is exactly what's going on in Washington right now. I listened to Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut talk last night about his heartbreak again and how he had to deal with the Sandy Hook mess. And his reaction to what happened in Uvalde yesterday, etc. And I am very, very pleased that Senator Cornyn from Texas is sitting down with him to try to figure out some kind of a bipartisan arrangement, etc. But I think we have to look at this, as terrible as it is. It really is. I don't think there's any words to describe it. And the closer you look at it, the worse it gets, and the more painful it gets. I get all of that. But we have this is much bigger than school shootings. School shootings are a subset of mass shootings, which are out of control as well. But they are a subset of the larger gun violence that's going on literally every day in our big cities across the country. Over 20 people, sometimes 30 people, are killed every day by gun violence across the country, and it's absolutely beyond belief. And most of those killings are in cities and states that have extremely strict gun control laws that are nowhere near enforced. And when I look at what happened in Buffalo 2 weeks ago and what happened in Uvalde yesterday, the only thing I see in common is a gun and is a young man that's out of control. Many people jumped to the white supremacy argument when the kid in Buffalo killed all those people in the grocery store, but that cannot be said of what happened in Uvalde. There is a segment of our young people that are captive to some kind of social demons that I don't think we understand. And I would sure like to understand it, because I think another branch of that, I'll call it mental illness, are young girls that 12, 13, 15 years old, sometimes younger even than that are harming themselves, that are having other forms of mental illness and distraction. Many people blame it on social media. I know so little about social media, I chose not to engage in any of it. So I'm not at all competent to comment on it. But most of the signs that I hear other people talk about it are pointing to various forms of social media and other distractions. There is something major sociologically going on with our young people.
Jim, I have to tell you this. The media, whether left, right, middle, whatever, has led us to this point. We don't want to make it about politics, but that truly is part of the issue. It's very sad for me to hear about social media or mental illness. Those issues are absolutely true. But gun violence only happens in this country. We have 5% of the world's population, but 35% of killings, death by gun. We have to stop this narrative. Mental illness is an issue. Social media is an issue. I have children in school. I know this. But that does not change the fact that New Zealand had a mass shooting, enacted broad gun reform. No more. Great Britain, England had mass shootings, enacted strict gun reform. Mass shootings stopped. No other country allows this. We keep talking about media or social media or mental illness. A violent psychopath, an 18-year-old boy, could get assault rifles this easily. He can't even buy a beer. Okay? What is there to discuss? We know how much an NRA sends. Stop making it about which side you're on. And the fact we blame gun violence is very racist. Places like inner city Chicago, New York, San Fran, prevalent gun violence, gang members, low income, criminals. To me, that has nothing to do with these non-minorities, people of color, children, psychopaths, mental illness, taking assault rifles and killing children. That's nothing to do with this. They shouldn't be allowed to get guns either. But yet, why can't we just sit down with compassion and empathy?
Well, that's what I said a few minutes ago, that I am pleased that Senator Cornyn and Senator Murphy and presumably a group of others are sitting down.
Sir,
And
you're someone in the future doing something about it, you know?
Well, I hope so, because most of what I've been hearing in the last 2 weeks since the Buffalo massacre is people need to do something. People need to do something. People need to do something. I would agree with that. Okay. So we've had many years to look at this. So I'd like to see a responsible group of people, wherever they come from on the political spectrum or the social structure. Frankly, I don't care. Advance a cogent set of proposals for what our country should do. If it needs to be done at the federal level, make that a part of the proposal. If it's better left to the states, make that a part of the proposal. I'm with you on the frustration. I just want to be very practical about what's going to happen so that we don't do something that is inadequate, insufficient, or maybe even counterproductive.
Sir, I absolutely applaud you, but I could tell you that ship has sailed, whether it's efficient or fair.
Okay.
Governor Abbott, Senator Cruz, the Republican Congress, they're not going to do anything. The way that they're answering already is denying responsibility and accountability. We've had so many mass shootings. Like I said, it keeps repeating. It will not stop. It will be weekly until we're numb. We are numb, probably, until one of our children, until one of their children is murdered. Even then, nothing will happen, because this fits a political agenda. This is not about Republicans, Democrats. This is not even about what you believe in. These are facts. And the only resolution is to have strict gun laws. Whereas I love my weapons too, but take them away. I will willingly give it up for the sake of my children.
You will, and I might as well too.
I don't need it anymore. If this is the case, because I am not going to be at a school to defend my children. I will not. I cannot. I cannot be in Chicago defending innocent. This is not going to happen. I'd rather not have it. Then no one has it. Look, I travel a lot. You travel a lot. We've been to many countries. A psychopath with a knife can only do certain damage. A psychopath with a car, a psychopath with a bomb. Mm-hmm. When you make guns so easily accessible, you can have social media mental illness. You can bet 18-year-olds, kids, they have puberty and hormones. I get it all. But every study scientifically has proven that this happens here in this great country for one reason only. Look at the states that have very strict gun laws. And when people argue and say, well, look at the states that are gun-free zones or guns, how come gun stores don't get robbed? People know that. No, that narrative, this is misleading. Please, the narrative is not about mental illness or social media anymore. It's about gun control, period, full stop. We have to reflect as Texans, as Americans, as a nation. I am angry, Jim. I've been angry.
I know you are. I feel that. I understand it. I empathize with you. And I feel your passion listening to you right now. I mean, anybody listening to you would as well.
I know that next week or the week after life goes on. I know most Americans, when they vote, we know the poll numbers also shows very divided. I understand that. I just don't know. Your proposal is great. It sounds great. And you're doing something that is thoughtful, that is compassionate. But the fact is that to me, that is not going to go through. Because what you're proposing should have been done long ago.
Well, maybe so. Maybe so. But I don't want to just take the moment of how sad we are and how outraged we are about what happened in Buffalo and what happened at the school in Uvalde yesterday. As long as we're going at it, let's talk about the 20 to 30 kids in terrible areas of Chicago and LA and other big cities that are getting killed every day.
I am sorry. No, I cannot. No, that has nothing to do with mass shooting. You know, we perpetrated this ghetto, this hood for a long time. We want the segregation to happen. We cannot control it. It relates to drugs. It relates to generational poverty. It relates to the income gap and racial inequality, education, high prosecution rate. It all comes to that. Is it a problem? Yes.
Jimmy, it's happening everywhere. I watch.
What does that have to do with mass shooting? That has nothing to do with assault rifles being readily available to Caucasian and young men, which is the majority of mass shooters.
There was a shooting, a fatal shooting this afternoon at Fondren and West Park.
There's fatal shooting every day, all over the city, in our city. There's murders every day. There's more mass shootings than there's days this year.
Yeah.
So what does that have to do with gun control again? We're saying that because there's mass shootings, because there's violent crime happening in other parts of the town, then we should not have water gun. No, we need to just enact a very strict gun control. Take it away. No 18-year-old should be buying assault rifles, period. Period. This is not about our Bill of Rights. This is not about our forefathers gave us this. This is our right as American. This is a greater country. It has nothing to do with it. This narrative needs to stop. Please. Violent crime happens. Gun crime happens. Yes, we need to stop it. Then take away guns from everybody, period.
And as I said, as I opened, if I thought it would do some good, I would be willing to listen.
But the facts show that it does do good. I gave you examples of every country in this world but us. These are facts. These statistics cannot manipulate the murder rates. You cannot manipulate this. There's no media, liberal media, that can leak this somewhere else. It cannot. China, we travel a lot. I live in a lot of countries. There is no mass shootings in Japan, China, Taiwan. You're saying they're better than us? They're not. There's no mass shootings in Korea, China, Taiwan, Vietnam, Thailand, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand. I can list on up. There is none but us. Do they not have mental problems? Do they not have crime and violent crime? Do they not have gangs and the ghetto? Of course they do. But there's no mass shooting.
Well, no, I disagree with that. I remember seeing mass shootings in Sweden, in France.
Exactly. And that gun laws stopped it. There's no more. There's no more. They stopped it immediately. Why can't we do that? What is there to disagree about? I don't get it. I don't understand this.
Okay. So
explain to me why. Why is it?
Jimmy, let's just take your proposal and say we want to eliminate all guns. How do you actually go and confiscate all guns?
Look at what New Zealand and Sweden and England did.
New Zealand, as a population, is less than Harris County. New Zealand's population is basically one culture.
Okay. What about England? What about Great Britain? Well, you know what? If you want to compare with the largest country, China doesn't. When China came out of the revolution, when communists took over, citizens do have weapons. So I don't want to compare to an authoritarian. People look at China as communists. They don't have guns. They have more people than us. How did they take away everyone's guns? Look, I don't know how we're going to do it, but we need to start somewhere. It's not about the process of how. It's that this needs to be enacted into law. The fact that if you're a citizen, you have no reason to hold assault rifles. There's no reason for you, unless you're law enforcement or military. And whether we can stop letting these psycho kids get it, and whoever has it already, we figure out a way how to get it out. I know New Zealand and England and Sweden, they all had a program where you turn it in, or they have records of sales, right? They'll go get it. So whoever's left with it are the illegal owners or criminals, and they will be punished for having it. Then slowly it will stop. There is no reason for 18-year-old with mental issues to be able to buy assault rifles. How much more can we take, Jim? How much more? I'm so happy for you that your kids are adults and they're out of school, because my heart sinks. You're right. Fondren and West Park have shots. Yeah. Today, Side Creek ISD sent an alert. There is someone that brought a loaded gun. Richardson's High School has an alert. I mean, every day there is. Every day. And the only common denominator from inner city shooting to mass shooting to school shooting is the readily available gun lobby, assault weapons all over the streets. That's it. I don't see why we have to even disagree that this is an issue. We all know this is an issue. We all know that so far there has been no solution because Texas has the most liberal gun law. Like there is no gun law. The open carry is less and less strict. You want to talk about mental issue? Abbott cut funding, $23 million this last session from the mental health budget. So it's very convenient to blame mental health or social media. But yet everyone can get guns more and more. He still attended NRA, right? NRA is here in Houston this week. My goodness sakes, I'm not sure what else could we do with this current political system that will change this mass shootings. What you propose will not happen because both sides will not agree on this. We know that. It benefits politicians. It appeals to their base, their political agenda, to stand for our rights, protecting our American rights. And we're all American and we got to get our guns. Yes, unless Texas and these liberal tarts, these progressive people are taking our rights away. It's a very easy narrative. The left is also going to use it to their advantage. But what is being done? Take away this. I'm I'm sorry. I'm so frustrated, Jim. I'm sorry. Thank you for listening to me, Ben, because
that's all right. I mean, I saw a news clip yesterday where Beto O'Rourke tried to interrupt Governor Abbott's talk in Uvalde, and it just degenerated into a political firestorm. So,
yeah, I saw what happened. It's Beto will be banned from any political gathering. It will set a precedent. But I understand his rage. I do.
Maybe in his quest for governor, he'll propose a 7-point plan on what we can actually do.
We're not going to vote for him because of this. People that are already going to vote for him will keep voting for him. People that are not. We're very set in our ways in this country. That's the sad part. We don't have a lot of moderates anymore. Issue by issue. I think that when they have issues, we need to change the balance, right? So you might not agree with this party, but vote him in just so they can switch it up, balance it out. Beto, whatever you feel about him, whether you want to vote for him or not, let's just be honest. He's not going to win the state. Abbott, for all that he's done, all the graft and Cruz, these people are still there. This is the new Republican Party. That's the problem for me. How are they represent the conservatives? No, they're not. These do not fit even as a conservative. It's disappointing to see these are the people that are representing the party, because what the controversy they generate, the arrogance that Abbott has, the way he answers it. You know what? That's fine. There's nothing we do. We live in the state. Jim, I want to tell you this. I've been in New York quite often this last month and a half. Okay, 2 out of 3 weeks I've been there. There's no better state than Texas. We don't appreciate our state. I told you last week. We don't appreciate where we are until we are somewhere else. Mm-hmm. New York has very strict gun laws. New York is very liberal, just like
New York. In New York City, in particular, for the 20 years of the Giuliani and Bloomberg,
it was great. Law and order, right?
They dropped violent crime and murders by 80%, not 20%. They dropped them by 80%. And guess what? After Bloomberg left, it turned right around, and they're almost back to their high that they were 25 years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's absolutely nuts. So there are techniques that can be used to reduce all of gun violence, but we run headlong into all kinds of violations of civil rights and accusations of racism and all kinds of other things. So there are techniques that can be used. And would I support them being here in Houston or in San Francisco or Washington or any other city that I know well? Absolutely, I would.
But I don't agree with that rhetoric. I don't. What I was going to say is New York City, we could see. I agree with that. Rudy's policies cleaned up Times Square, because I was in Times Square and I could see.
No, the whole city, not just
the entire city. Yes, but I'm saying I was there. I remember when Giuliani was here, and I have friends that are in law enforcement in New York. I have friends that are business owners and corporate warriors, and they all have the same tone. They all come in the same thing. Crime is repentant. I mean, anti-Asian hate. I mean, Asian are targeted there. There's so many cases. But you know what? Come down to this. what you said is 100% true. But also, this rhetoric is also very dangerous because law and order doesn't have to be done in a racist way. Law and order, criminals are criminals. Law and order doesn't have to be equated with police violence and abuse. We cannot let a very small amount of bad police, undertrained police, racist police change the entire law enforcement. Do I agree we need law and order? We definitely do. We absolutely do. Whatever political ideology you have, we need to have law and order. That should be the basis, fundamental. It should not be a political issue. It should not be a racism issue.
And let's take law and order to the next step. When people commit violent crimes, they should be held with very high bail. They shouldn't be coming out for 2 and 3 and 4 and 7 violent crimes committed while they're out on other allegations.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. But the prosecutors and the judges, because they want to appeal to their voter base, has allowed this to happen. These repeat offenders, right? I mean, just in Houston a month ago, someone's out on bond and shot police officers, It
happens every day in major cities.
Who wants to be police officers when they're at risk of being murdered every day? They have families to go back to too.
That's why it's getting harder and harder to recruit police officers.
Nobody wants to be police. You're right. Even if they are the job, they don't want to do it because they've been recorded. They're being sued.
Well, and they're put at risk by the same guys that they turned in last week. They're back out again. Now the police got a target on their own back. Things are really out of control. That's why I'd like to see the anger and the frustration that you have passionately talked about today channeled into very consistent and practical solutions. And I hope we don't forget. I hope that we remember.
Don't get numb.
Because passion tends to go up and come back down again and deteriorate a little bit over time. We need to keep reminding ourselves of this and have some sustained effort on it. And all across the board, that's why I was arguing for a more comprehensive approach to gun violence. And what we've had in the last 2 weeks are 2 very ugly, very sad flashpoints. Very bad.
Jim, I applaud you. I thank you for hearing me out. Yes, my passion, my anger has been sustaining. I have never stopped being angry about it because, but it's so, you feel like there's so little you can do, but there is. You got to get active. You got to go out there and vote consistently. You go out there and let whoever's in power know that they have to be held accountable. We got to vote these people out of office, people that are allowing this to happen. I don't care who you place them with, but they need to get out. Get Abbott, get Cruz, get these people out, period. Because there is a relation to it. There is certain states that has a much higher, and whatever happened in New York City, get them out of office too.
I know how you feel about the Texas leadership, but I would argue we need to get rid of Lori Lightfoot in Chicago. We need to get rid of George Gascon in LA. And his
Chase Bodine in San Francisco. Yeah.
I mean, we can target, excuse the term target, politician. Anyway,
if they're not doing their jobs, get them out. Period. It's very
there's simple. A tremendous amount to be done. Tremendous amount.
Jim, we pray for the victims of Uvalde. I've been there. I have children their age, and the teachers, and we should focus on that. And we got to get better as a country. We just as a state. This is wrong.
We should stop this extreme partisanship and try to come back together and talk to each other.
Could I ask you? I've never done this before on the show. Could I ask you to lead a quick prayer?
Yeah, sure.
Very quick prayer.
Yeah. Father, please give us patience and give us perseverance to deal with these horrible acts that we have witnessed over the last 2 weeks, to have judgment and sustained energy and effort to do the right thing, to listen to each other, to have empathy with each other, and to forge through all of the difficulties to come out with solutions that appeal to our highest instincts and appeal to your judgment as well. Because we cannot forget this. We need to be inspired by your continuing grace. And really let us together. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We hope we see some changes coming up, and we'll see you next week. Take care, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.